Hi and welcome to Smash Exams. The MAPS question for the IELTS Academic Writing Task 1 is one of the most difficult texts. In this video, we're going to do a deep dive into how to write the IELTS MAPS question for Task 1. In this lesson, we will learn IELTS specific vocabulary for writing about maps, how to plan your essay for the IELTS Academic Writing Task 1, how to describe changes in maps using the IELTS vocabulary, how to write a great overview for summarising the maps, and right at the end, we'll look at some top tips for the IELTS MAPS question. First, let's look at some vocabulary. So we're going to look at some verbs or some synonyms for building. The first one is extend, expand, develop, put up, construct, and erect. These are verbs for building something and the synonyms are just here underneath. You can use any of these when writing your essay, but it's good to build up the vocabulary before we start. You can also change these verbs into nouns. Extend becomes extension, expand becomes expansion, develop becomes development, construct becomes construction, and erect becomes erection. A good example of this would be, a major change to the area was the construction of a campsite to the north of the village, or the reception buildings next to the river were expanded to almost double their size. Not only are the changes about things being built, they could also be things being removed. Here is some verbs for removing: demolish, knock down, tear down, flatten, raise. And we can change those to nouns. We can change demolish into demolition, and tear down it stays the same as a noun. By 1950, the library had been razed. A lot of demolition had taken place next to the park. And sometimes things aren't built or removed, they're sometimes just changed. Some verbs for change include modernise, relocate, replace, renovate, convert, and alter. And again, we can change some of those into nouns: modernisation, relocation, replacement, renovation, conversion, and alteration. The children's play area was converted into a cafe. There was a lot of modernisation between 2000 and 2020 in the town. A good way to change up your vocabulary in the IELTS Academic Writing Task 1 for the maps is to group different things together. So the first group is recreational. Recreational is things like play areas, gyms, parks, swimming pools, and cinemas. You could also use residential as a group, which basically means where people live. Things like flats, houses, apartments, mansions, or even campsites. For example, by 2022, the recreational facilities had expanded. The residential area had been mostly demolished. As you can see, we're using those building, changing, removing nouns in our examples as well. We could also talk about commercial facilities, things such as shops, cafes, laundry, or office blocks. And we could use industrial. Industrial is things like warehouses, factories, and railway stations. The town became much more industrial by 2019, with the erection of several warehouses. I can't get over that word. There was a development of commercial buildings. A laundry and a cafe were erected in the south of the town. Although it's funny, it is a real word you can use for build or built. It is my favourite one. I do love a good erection. Okay, let's have a look at the map we're going to be using for our sample answer. This is one I've created myself, so you won't have seen it anywhere else. Let's have a look at the question. The two maps below show an island before and after development. And then we have the instructions, which are the same as always. Summarise the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where necessary. So this is the map we're going to use. So after you've looked at the map, you first need to start planning straight away. So my first tip for planning, and this will be really useful later on when you're writing the body paragraphs, is if there's no compass on the IELTS test, just draw one on yourself. So now you know, now you can say things like, this is north, east, south, and west. And it will really help you describing where things are. Usually there is a compass on the map, but if there isn't, just draw one on. The next thing we need to do is look at the main changes or the main features. So the first thing I can see here is that the trees have been removed. We can see that a new town has been built. We can see that a road has been constructed to connect the new town. We can see that a resort has been built. And the harbour has expanded. So now we know the main features. We need to plan the structure. So as always, we start with an introduction, then write an overview, then have two body paragraphs. So for my introduction, you need to paraphrase the description given in the question. In the overview, you need to provide a summary of the main changes, which we've just looked at now. In body paragraph 1, I've decided for this particular question, I'm going to write details about what was built. And in the body paragraph 2, I'm going to talk about things that have been removed or changed. There's many ways to separate your body paragraphs. Another way to structure your body paragraphs would be to have recreational and commercial in body paragraph 1 and industrial in body paragraph 2. As long as you split the two paragraphs, that's the most important thing when deciding what to go in what body paragraph. But as always, the main thing is when you're planning, find the main features and decide what you're going to write about in each body paragraph. Now that we've got the vocabulary sorted and the structure we're going to use and what we're going to talk about with the main features, we can start writing the introduction. With the introduction, you need to paraphrase the description that's given in the exam. So ours was the two maps below show an island before and after its development. Always change show to something like illustrate, depict, or represent. Get rid of the word below. And an island before and after its development, I've got two options. An island in the years of 2010 and 2015 and the changes that took place, or the changes that happened on an island during its evolution. What I've gone for is the two maps depict an island in 2010 and 2015 and the changes that took place. So that is our introduction, just simply paraphrasing the question. Next, the overview, where we know that we need to write a summary of the changes or a summary of what's happened. The best way to stick to writing an overview and not going into too many specific details is to start off with the word overall, or you can use to summarize or even in general. So we can say the island went through an expansion of residential areas and new recreational facilities were erected. Okay, so we can see that there's a new town, Springtown, and there's a new resort. So the main thing there is that recreational facilities were erected. Now we move on to the body paragraphs. So body paragraph 1, if we look at our planning, we can see that we need to write about what was built, and that is the resort, the new town, and a road. So using our vocabulary that I discussed earlier and our plan of what we need to talk about, we can start to construct our first body paragraph. Mine is, by 2015 in the island's development, many facilities had been constructed. The most striking change is the construction of a commercial resort to the north of the island. Furthermore, a whole new town was erected in the centre of the island called Springtown. Additionally, 2 roads were built connecting the resort and Springtown to Folk Hills. So as you can see in orange, we've used lots of our vocabulary from the start of the video. Nothing is repeated. Either we've changed verbs to nouns if we've used it twice, like construction, and we've talked about what is commercial, and we've used 3 synonyms of built: constructed, erected, and built. So moving on, we can see that body paragraph 2 is the same, but this time we need to write about what was removed or changed, and we can see that the harbour has expanded and the trees have been removed. Another major change to the island between 2010 and 2015 was the destruction of the forest next to the Swan Mountain. Additionally, the industrial harbour on the southwest coast of the island was expanded to almost double the size it was in 2010. So here you can see we've used that compass. We've used north, east, south and west to describe where on the island these changes have been taking place, which will really get you a high mark because you're very precise with your report. They're the main things you need to be thinking about with the IELTS Maps question, but here are some more additional tips to use if you get a maps question in the IELTS Academic Writing Task 1. Draw a compass on the map if you're not provided with one. If you don't take anything else away from this video, make sure you do that because it'll really help you in talking about where things are on the map. Learn and memorize. I always tell you not to memorize, but in this case, learn and memorize the different verbs and nouns for building, changing, or destroying. This is good because you can use them in your report without repeating yourself when talking about the maps. Always provide the overview or the summary. This is really important for task achievement. Some people think you should put the overview or the summary at the end, and that's fine, but I like to do it as the second paragraph straight after the introduction. And as you should know, don't spend more than 20 minutes on this. After 20 minutes, move on to task 2 and make sure you write 150 words. But don't count them, don't waste your time counting them. Practice and see how big on paper 150 words looks in your handwriting. Then you'll know just by glancing at the paper if you've managed to hit 150 words. Thank you for watching to the end. I hope you enjoyed the deep dive on the maps for academic writing task 1 for the IELTS. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe, or maybe give a comment in the description. Maybe you could write a sample answer in the comments and I'll give you some feedback. Check out these videos if you need more help with the IELTS. Good luck and smash those exams.